Hello, welcome back here in CAYDEN'S Weather Center. Right now we are paying attention to the tropics. We're watching Tropical Storm Francine in the Gulf of Mexico here as it will be approaching the Louisiana coast here. The question is where does it make landfall exactly in Louisiana? We're starting to see a little bit more of an idea here and a little bit more confidence on an exact type of landfall, but we're seeing maybe even possibly more of a stronger system once it gets over here in the northern Gulf of Mexico. Today is September 9th, 2024, and we're paying attention right now to obviously Tropical Storm Francine as we have now reached the F-named storm here in the Gulf of Mexico. According to the satellite, you can clearly kind of just see it's a very, very big cloud here according to, kind of with the satellite picture, but definitely a little bit of those thunderstorms were blowing up earlier this morning near the center, and we're seeing a little bit more on the outside. We're seeing a little bit of those thunderstorms activity really starting to ramp up itself, so something to be paying attention to as we go on throughout the next couple of hours to see how much we could be seeing this storm strengthening as it goes on throughout the rest of the day. Taking a look here at the forecast cone by the National Hurricane Center. This is from 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 10 Central here. You can clearly see we have brand new warnings and watches out. So still tropical storm watches will be continuing for parts of Mexico, stretching into the southern part of Texas here. And then now hurricane watches are now anticipated here for Louisiana. So could be anticipating some possible tropical cyclone being a hurricane here, maybe even a Category 2 hurricane in Louisiana. These will be upgraded to hurricane warnings most likely tomorrow night. We could be seeing some hurricane warnings for this coast. So definitely something to be paying attention to right now. It does seem like majority of all those winds are on the western side of the storm. So that's why the tropical storm watches are out for parts of eastern Mexico, as well as the southern tip here of Texas. So something to be paying attention to. The heavy rainfall will be a big threat as well. But taking a look here a little bit more at the watches and the warnings and all that, well, actually, we don't have any warnings out. Tropical storm watches does include New Orleans here. We can clearly see that heading into parts of Texas, stretching into southeastern Louisiana. And then obviously the hurricane watches for majority of the southern coast of Louisiana. Same with the tropical storm watches stretching from southern Texas all the way into Mexico here, due to how close that tropical storm wind speeds are. We're going to continue seeing this storm as well. The storm is moving north-northwest here at 5, so we're going to see it kind of jog a little off before getting kind of pulled to the northeast here, so something to be paying attention to. But the winds obviously more on the western side, which could play a factor in exactly kind of what the intensity is or how organized the system is necessarily here. We kind of can see it start to approach here possibly Tuesday night. We could be seeing a little bit of those tropical storm winds starting to approach overnight on Tuesday into the Louisiana coast, and then 8 a.m. We could be expecting it heading into around Mississippi area right now. So something to be paying attention to as we go on throughout the next couple of hours when we see new updates from the National Hurricane Center. What are we going to expect here with the probabilities for winds? Obviously, we're going to start seeing that pink move up, and that will be 100% chance really of tropical storm force winds. So the storm surge will be one of our biggest threats right now. We kind of can see Galveston 1 to 3 feet. Not terribly bad there, but then you have the mouth of the Mississippi River, 4 to 7 feet here of storm surge, and then we have the 5 to 10 feet of storm surge in this region. That is 5 to 10 feet. That is above normal ground here, and that also depends on what, high tide or low tide. It all depends on that, but those we're going to be seeing some pretty probably some big amounts of the flooding that could possibly happen here from the storm here. But the storm surge, if you live on the coast here of southern Louisiana, please be making sure, if you are under a mandatory evacuation, please to make sure to evacuate, because this could be a very, very dangerous storm here, and this will be, as you can see, feet above ground level, up to 10 feet in this area right here in southern Louisiana. Hopefully we don't see it go any higher than that, so we'll have to keep an eye out obviously on the updates, and that's why if you are living in Louisiana and you do live in that 5 to 10 feet zone there, please make sure you're paying attention to the National Hurricane Center and your National Weather Service as well. Heavy rainfall will continue as it continues to push off over here to the northeast once it makes that turn in the Gulf of Mexico. See some areas getting up to 6 to 8 inches of rain here. Lake Charles could possibly get some 8 to 12 inches of rain. New Orleans maybe 4 to 6 inches of rain, but so far will be most likely probably more of a wind maker due to that storm surge as well. But still, no matter what, we're going to see some pretty strong amount of, some pretty heavy rainfall in this region right here. That's why you can see Lake Charles, New Orleans, you guys are in that moderate risk for some severe flooding here in while this storm continues to approach your coast, and it continues once it moves off to the northeast, we're going to see a lot of rain. So far, the storm is not moving very quickly at all. So we're obviously going to see a little bit more of an interesting situation, especially when it gets over here into the central states here. It's going to slow down dramatically, so that could cause a flooding issue for up here. But then even if we see this, when will that turn exactly happen? That could play a big factor. Most of the models saying it goes right through central Louisiana. You do have that one model still goes to the eastern Louisiana. It all depends on when that turn exactly happens. But no matter what, we're seeing it make a landfall in Louisiana here. Probably in the next 48, 52 hours, we could be seeing a possible landfall here, and that is when we're going to start to obviously see here in the next 2 days, we're going to start seeing those tropical storm winds start to approach some of those cities right there in Louisiana. Right now, the temperatures that it's sitting in, 31 degrees Celsius, very, very hot waters that you can clearly see, and we'll be heading into the kind of the same environment. We'll cool down a little bit as it gets closer to the Louisiana coast, but you can clearly see it's going to go through a little bit of those hot temperatures still. 30 degrees Celsius is still pretty hot waters here, and we're going to keep an eye out on that very, very closely, because that could lead to more intensification from the water. It could help the storm with intensification. And if we take a look here at the GFS model here, you can clearly see 997 millibar tropical system here heading into tomorrow. That we could be seeing a possible high-den tropical storm tomorrow morning, and then possibly 974 millibars here on September 11th. This will be on Wednesday. We can clearly see as it's pushing up here into the northeast, it seems, of a more track from the GFS, we could be seeing a possible Category 2 hurricane, and that's kind of what we're anticipating at this time. This will be dumping heavy amounts of rain over Louisiana no matter what, and we're going to continue to pay attention to that. Same with the storm surge, could be very, very up there as well. Taking a look at the total accumulation, though, we can clearly see according to the GFS, heading into Louisiana, I would say not as bad as Tropical Storm Debbie did bring to Florida and the Carolinas, but definitely still will pack a punch with some of that rainfall, reaching up into around 8 to 12 feet of rain. So still something to be paying attention to as we go on throughout the next couple of hours, the next couple of days. And the European model is saying a little bit more of a weaker system here for a little bit, and then kind of will bring it up here, but does bring it into that 977 millibar here, and then brings it into a little bit more, I would say, kind of the same track as the GFS, but maybe a little bit more off to the west here. But you kind of can see a majority of those stronger winds, according to the European model, could go off to the western side of the storm, but no matter what, the European model is still kind of agreeing. Same thing, some pretty heavy amounts of rain with this tropical system here. It does seem like majority of that rain that does reach over a foot of rain does stay off the coast of Louisiana, so that is at least some good news here. Taking a look here at the HWRF, so this is one of the hurricane models that the National Hurricane Center definitely looks at and all of that. This kind of gives us a representation on where it could exactly go and what we're anticipating with the storms. You can clearly see the HWRF does bring it 992, 984 Wednesday morning, then brings it into obviously Louisiana. This is when we're going to start seeing some of those strong rain bands will come in here. So really Wednesday will be our day, and then overnight it will be making that landfall around maybe 11 p.m. according to this model. So in the next 69 hours we could be seeing a possible landfall, but no matter what, we're going to see some of these outer bands, and that's going to bring that storm surge as well here into the Louisiana coast. I would say majority of that rainfall will continue to stay off to a little bit more of the north or the eastern side, with this big rain band that is expected to continue on. So New Orleans definitely needs to be on the lookout for some pretty heavy rainfall with some flooding, and then we'll continue to push off over here to the north and dump some heavy amounts of rain heading into the central states. The HMON model is another hurricane model they pay attention to very closely here. HMON's bringing it a little bit stronger, 975 millibars, dumping heavy amounts of rain still on the northern part of the storm. So the northern eye wall could be dealing with some pretty strong and intense winds as well. Right now, it's been a little bit of an interesting situation when it comes to the intensity, so we could still be seeing something interesting, but you can clearly see some pretty heavy amounts of rain will continue for the coast of Texas too, and Louisiana here for just hours and hours for probably the majority of the day on Wednesday and possibly heading into Thursday. So something to be paying attention to, obviously, as we continue to watch the storm push off over here to the northwest right now. Not moving very quickly. It's moving at 5 miles an hour. We're going to obviously pay attention to the models and what we could be seeing some possible changes here from the National Hurricane Center. But if you do live in the Louisiana coast and you are expecting 5 to 10 feet of storm surge, please be making sure you are paying attention to your local officials. If you are told to evacuate, make sure to evacuate and follow that, because 5 to 10 feet above normal ground is very, very intense. We don't like to see anyone being trapped in that flooding, especially if you live on the beach and the coast. So please make sure you're paying attention to that. For frequent updates, make sure to follow my X page down in the description. Hope for you guys to have a great rest of your day. Please make sure you're staying safe out there and staying updated with this tropical system. Please make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.